Hello, Rins.
Hello, sir.
Hello, gawin kitang co-host tapos patulong ako sa pag-admit kay Hannah tapos yung
Sige, sir.
yes. Thank you, Rins.
Wala akong anuman. Try mo ulit. Ang nakapas lang.
Ganun pa rin.
Ganun pa rin. Kahit i-click mo lang yung link.
Oo.
Pag nag-zoom ka tapos
Tinry ko rin mag-open muna ng Zoom tapos sinenter ko yung meeting ID. Ganun pa rin.
ayaw, ano kailangan? Ano ina-ask?
May account ka?
Oo.
Okay.
Account ng
Sa Zoom?
meron.
Ay, yun ang kailangan.
Hindi ko sure. Pero normally, kiniklik lang talaga.
Ayun lang yung nangyari sa akin.
Ano gagawin natin?
Hello. Hi, Rins. Rins. Is Hannah going to use the same laptop as yours or iba yung gagamitin niya?
Teka lang, sir. Hindi makapasok si Hannah sa Zoom.
Oh, anong name niya kaya? Wala pa, hindi pa siya nakapasok.
Parang may problema dun sa account.
Talaga?
Parang, teka lang, try ko mag-share kami ng laptop. Wait lang. Magkaiba kasi kami ng room.
Wala namang restriction akong nilagay sa... or maybe she can use the direct one.
Parehong ayaw eh. Parang you require, parang authentication is required, mga ganun.
Dapat may Zoom account siya at least.
Kailangan mo na?
Kailangan daw ng commercial Zoom account.
Commercial Zoom account. Kailangan daw sir ng commercial Zoom account.
Oh, that's weird.
Pwede mo
Pinadala ko sa'yo sa Facebook yung PowerPoint.
sige. Mag-share na lang kami ng laptop. Sige, open mo na lang. Sarado ko lang yung okay lang. No problem.
Hi. Hello, John.
Hello, good morning. Oh,
Good afternoon, John.
Good afternoon, actually.
All right. So I think we could now admit the participants. Rins, kung okay lang kay Hannah. We'll
sige
start
po, okay
admitting the
lang po,
participants.
sir.
So you're going to introduce her, okay?
Apo.
Okay.
Nakuha mo na? Na-open mo na? Open mo na yung presentation mo. Ay, dyan. Sana, ito na. Sa Facebook mo. Facebook ko. Wala pa. Sa email. Wala pa siya. Kasya ba?
Hello, Rins. With regards to authentication, maybe Hannah could try logging in first sa Zoom bago siya mag-connect kasi ang problema daw na yun is caused by the fact that you're not logged in sa Zoom. Kaya dapat mag-log in muna bago mag-connect. Hello, magandang hapon. So I think Hannah is ready now. Pero Rins, anong profile ni Hannah?
Hannah Fleming, sir.
Hannah Fleming. Let me look for her. Wait, di ko siya makita sa participants. Siya ba si iPad 2? Hindi.
Hindi, sir. Mayroon po siyang name. Baka nasa
Okay,
bandang-
okay. Yeah, I saw it. Thank you. Okay, there you go. Magandang hapon po muli sa inyong lahat. Welcome sa second LSP TheSSo. So bago ko i-turn over kay Rins, no? Para sa pagpapakilala ng unang speaker natin today, I just like to reintroduce sa inyong lahat yung LSP VTS. You will see in the screen yung usual slide na pinapakita natin sa audience kapag meron tayong virtual talk series. Merong tatlong strands ang LSP VTS, and one of them is the LSP TheSSo. So we launched this in 2021, kasagsagan ng pandemic, basically to have a platform, no, para sa ating mga members to listen to expert lectures. And at the same time, sa ibang strands, pwede rin mag-participate yung members natin and share their current research undertakings. And in the case of TheSSo, in particular, para ito sa mga nagti-thesis at mga nagdi-dissertation. So it's either you've already done your thesis or dissertation, you would like to share to the public, or you are in the proposal stage and you would like to solicit comments from your fellow LSP members. So ngayong hapon ay pangalawa pa lang na LSP TheSSo natin. So we're hoping to add more editions, no, of LSP TheSSo in the future. So ngayong hapon, may dalawa tayong featured speaker at ang unang speaker natin, si Binibining Hannah Fleming ng SL Philippines, papakilala ng ating kasapi ng LSP board, si Rins Gonzalez. Rins?
Magandang hapon sa ating lahat. Isang malaking kagalakan na kasama natin ngayon ang aking colleague sa SIL, si Hannah Fleming. So si Hannah po ay pinanganak dito sa Philippines and she grew up in Batangas. She became fascinated with Philippine languages when her family went on a holiday to Samar and then Davao when she was a child. She completed a BA Honors First Class from Otago University in New Zealand and has since been a member of SIL Philippines. Her Grammar of Eastern Taugwid, which began as her honors dissertation, has since been published as a free ebook by SIL. She continues to work in the Eastern Taugwid language and is particularly interested in grammatical description of Mangyan languages. So, without further ado, let's all welcome Ms. Hannah Fleming.
Hello. Good afternoon po sa ating lahat. Pwede pala pong mag-Tagalog, ano? Okay. Ang gagawin po natin, hindi po natin patatagalin. Yung screen sharing na pala. Sorry po. Okay, kita niyo po yung PowerPoint.
Yes, Hannah, we could see your PowerPoint now.
Okay. So, good afternoon nga po sa ating lahat. Yung ipe-present ko po ngayon ay key findings from a grammar of Eastern Taubuid. Okay. Yung Eastern Taubuid po is a language that is spoken on the island of Mindoro. Makikita po natin dyan yung map ng Mindoro. Galing po yan sa Google Maps, kaya credit po sa kanila. Makikita nyo po dyan may nakabilog na kulay blue. Yun po yung area na siguradong may mga speakers ng Eastern Taubuid. Ngayon po, malamang po actually mas malaki yung area na may Eastern Taubuid speakers, pero yung nakabilog lang dyan ay yung mga sigurado na may mga Eastern Taubuid speakers talaga dyan. So, wala pong clear na data kung ilan po talaga yung speakers, pero probably a few thousand speakers. Tsaka yung language po ay vigorous. Natututo po yung mga bata na mag-Taubuid. Pagdating po nila sa school, hirap po silang mag-Tagalog. At habang lumalaki po sila sa loob ng mga Taubuid communities, Taubuid po talaga yung wika na ginagamit ng mga tao. So yung fieldwork po para sa grammar ko ay ginawa po sa SAFA, isang Eastern Taubuid community of several hundred people. Tapos ako po, natuto po talaga ako mag-Eastern Taubuid. Siyempre yung mga examples na ipe-present ko po dito ay batay po sa mga native speakers, pero nakakapagsalita din po ako ng Eastern Taubuid. At mga 8 years na po akong nakatira sa SAFA. At gusto ko pong idiin na yung mga examples po na makikita po natin dito, wala pong mga translated examples dito. Alam ko po na minsan sa research, kulang sa panahon, ganun, kailangan gumamit ng mga translated examples. Pero para sa akin po, mas maganda po yung datos natin kung hanggat maaari ay magre-rely po tayo sa monolingual elicitation tsaka natural text. Kaya yung mga nandito po na mga example na ipe-present ko po ay galing po sa mga natural text, galing po sa mga monolingual elicitation, at galing po sa mga observed speech sa community. Kaya kung mapapansin po natin na yung ibang mga features ay parang kakaiba po sa mga inaasahan natin sa mga Filipino languages, hindi po ito dahil sa influence ng English o ibang wika. Ito po ay, hindi po ito isinalin mula sa ibang wika. Okay, yung phonology po, yung gagawin po natin, mag-overview po ako ng ilang mga katangian ng Taubuid, tapos medyo mag-in-depth po tayo sa morphology, sa morphosyntax. Kasi yun po yung talagang medyo interesting para sa akin. Okay, makikita po natin sa phonology, yung interesting po dito ay wala po tayong mga glottal consonant. Yung glottal stop at H, wala po. Tapos yung nawala din po yung yung P, yung voiceless stop, bilabial stop, wala po. Actually, allophone po ito ng F, pero wala po tayong P phoneme sa Taubuid. 5.5 po yung glottal stop, yung vowel phoneme natin. Meron po tayong A, E, I, O, U. Tapos meron pong high central vowel, pero medyo nawawala na po yan. Yung mga older speakers na lang po yung nakakapagbigkas nito ng maayos. Tapos yung mga younger speakers po nang merge po ito sa U o kaya sa I sa ibang mga words. Yung I at O, yung E at O sa Taubuid po ay, kung titingnan po natin ito historically, nanggaling po ito sa mga diphthongs na nag-undergo po ng vowel smoothing. Kaya halimbawa yung salitang balay na nakikita sa maraming mga Philippine languages, in house, sa Taubuid po ito po ay bale. Tapos yung O naman ay nanggaling po sa mga smoothing po ng aw. Kaya halimbawa yung sabaw sa Tagalog, yung katumbas po nito sa Taubuid ay sabo. Para sa akin, yung interesting po sa phonology ng Taubuid ay may makikita po tayong mga complicated na syllable shape. Meron po tayong mga consonant cluster sa onset, meron po tayong consonant cluster sa coda. May mangilang-ilan din pong mga syllabic nasal, yung N at M, nag-a-appear din po yan. Ngayon, yung interesting po sa mga consonant cluster, yung mga ibang consonant cluster dito ay typologically unusual consonant cluster. Hindi lang ito unusual within the Philippines, unusual po ito sa, actually, unusual po ito sa buong mundo. Meron po mga stop affricate cluster na nakikita din po sa ibang mga language pero medyo rare ito. Halimbawa, actually, phonemically, yung cluster po ay velar voice tapos may affricate. Pero phonetically, yung nangyayari, nadi-devoiced po yung velar stop. Kaya nagiging velar unvoiced tapos affricate. Ito po ay nangyayari po dahil sa verbal affixation. May verbal affix po sila na velar stop lang. Kaya yung pfa lang at yung ksali, yun po ay nagiging mga consonant cluster sa tawid. Tapos yung pinaka-unusual po ay yung mga consonant cluster na stop-stop, dalawang stop. At ito po ay unreleased. Kaya medyo bilang second language speaker, mahirap po itong marinig. Pero talagang nangyayari po ito at kinokorek po ako ng mga native speaker pag hindi po ko po ito ay sinusunod sa sarili kong pagsasalita. Kaya yung makikita po natin dito sa slide na ito ay isang sound file, image ng sound file ng isang native speaker na nagsasabi ng salitang bull, which is kumuha. At makikita po natin na yung voicing dyan, yung naka-highlight na area ng voicing bago dumating sa vowel ay medyo matagal. Dahil po dalawa po yung consonant na nandyan, hindi po iisa. Okay, moving on sa clitics. Familiar naman po siguro sa ating lahat yung mga second position clitics na bida talaga sa mga Philippine languages. Sa Tagalog, meron po tayong ba, na, pa, po, mga ganun po. Sa Tabuid, meron din po tayong clitics, pero 50, mga nasa 50 po yung mga non-pronominal clitics nila. Hindi po dyan, kasama dyan yung mga clitic pronoun. Kaya napakarami po. At ginagamit po ito para mag-communicate ng maraming mga idea. Kasama po dito yung speaker evaluation, clausal relationship, at time and aspect. At meron pa mga kombinasyon ng mga clitics na ibang-iba yung ibig sabihin. Sa ibig sabihin kung mag-isa lang yung mga clitics na yun. Kaya napaka-complicated po ng system nila sa clitics. At hindi po natin mapag-uusapan ngayon kasi mauubos po ang oras natin doon. Sa negators naman po, at a conservative count, there are 12 negators in the language. Ngayon po, kung para sa akin, actually mas marami. Pero yung pinakamababang count na magagawa, depende po medyo sa analysis, ay nasa 12. Ngayon, yung choice ng negator is affected by syntax and speaker attitude. Kaya yung negator na ginagamit sa negation sa loob ng phrase ay iba naman sa negators na pwedeng gamitin sa clause. At depende rin po kung main clause po ng sentence ang ninenegate o kung subordinate clause. At kung sakaling subordinate clause, depende rin po sa type ng subordinate clause, kung ano pong negator ang maaaring gamitin doon. Tapos depende din po sa structure ng clause, depende din po sa speaker evaluation, kasama din po dyan ang speaker evaluation. Kaya complicated. Halimbawa, ito po, yung negator na D, halimbawa lang. Ang negator na D ay ginagamit po sa main clause, so hindi sa subordinate clause, with non-noun phrase predicate when the speaker has a positive attitude towards what they are saying. Kaya halimbawa, kuusena di gadaylan, my friend is not sick. Yung D po ay ginamit dito kasi nakakatuwa na wala pong sakit yung kaibigan natin. Kaya kailangan po D yung gagamitin natin sa context na to. Actually, nakuha ko po yung sentence na ito kasi sinabi ko minsan sa isang tawid, kuusena wagadaylan. Mali po yung negator na ginamit ko at pinagsabihan ako kasi pag ganun daw po yung sinabi ko, ibig sabihin gusto ko daw na magkasakit yung kaibigan ko. Kailangan po yung D para ma-communicate yung tamang speaker attitude towards what they are saying. Isa pa pong halimbawa, yung negator naman na bun. Ito po, siguro historically, nanggaling po ito sa Bakan. Meron po itong mga reflexes sa ibang mga wika dito sa loob at labas ng Pilipinas. Pero at sa marami pong mga wika, kasama po yung tawid, yung Bakan po, yung role po niya ay negating a clause when the predicate is a noun phrase. Yung interesting dito sa tawid, yung Bakan, ay kailangan may kasamang ibang negator, hindi po siya pwedeng mag-isa. Makikita po natin dyan sa example, kanya bunwa kumamay, bunwa kumina, yung bun po may kasunod pa po yung isa pang negator, wa. At magiging ungrammatical po ito kung yung bun lang ang gagamitin natin, walang ibang kasamang negator. Kaya marami pong mga complexity sa negation system sa tawag-with. Okay, punta naman po tayo sa noun phrase. Sayang kasi maganda po talaga itong area din ng language na tawag-with. Sanay po siguro tayo sa mga Philippine languages, medyo free yung ordering within the noun phrase. Yung pag may linker, pwedeng ipagpalit-palit yung order. Pero sa tawag-with po ay kailangan mauna talaga yung mga modifier sa head noun. At dalawa lang pong halimbawa, actually marami po sana mabibigay na halimbawa nito, pero dalawa lang po. Yung isa ay yung possessive pronoun, kumangena, my wife. Siyempre, familiar po sa atin yung word na ko. Parang cognate po ito ng ko sa Tagalog. Pero siyempre, siguro sanay po tayo sa ibang mga languages, kadalasan, sa Central Philippines, kadalasan, ito po ay kasunod ng head noun. Pero sa tawid po, yung ko po ay nauuna sa head noun. At ganito rin po, kahit yung possessor po natin ay noun o noun phrase. Ito po, Siraw Bale, Monster's House o Bahay ng Aswang. Siyempre, sanay po tayo na yung possessor na noun, yung genitive noun ay kasunod ng head noun. Pero sa tawid po, kailangan yung genitive noun ay nauuna sa head noun. Kaya mas parang English yung word order na to. Pero hindi po ito nanggaling sa English. Ito po ay yung talagang natural na order sa tawid. At yung interesting din po na word order, kung titiningin na po tayo sa clause level, sa tawid, hindi po ito verb initial. Sanay po tayo dito sa Pilipinas at maging sa ibang mga Western Austronesian languages, siguro kadalasan sanay tayo na yung ina-expect natin ay verb initial. Pero kapag may basic transitive clause sa tawid at yung subject po ay noun phrase, hindi pronoun, yung verb po ay sa gitna. At yung tinatawag ko pong subject, pwede po natin pag-usapan mamaya kung bakit para sa akin pwede po itong tawaging subject sa tawid, ay nauuna. Kaya nagiging SVO yung order. Okay. Mag-aaral po tayo ng konti tungkol sa verbal morphology ng tawid kasi interesting din po ito. Yan po yung diagram na nasa grammar ko tungkol sa morpheme ordering sa verb sa Eastern Tawid. Tanda ko po nung una ko pong inaaral yung verbal system ng Eastern Tawid, parang ang gulo. Kasi minsan yung aspect affix, suffix, minsan prefix, minsan ang daming suffix, paano nila nalalaman kung ano yung ordering ng mga suffix, yung ordering ng mga prefix. Naguluhan po talaga ako sa una, pero ako lang po yung may problema. Kasi yun pala, nung pinag-aralan ko po talaga ng mas susi, yung nakita ko po talaga ay meron pong underlying logic. Sa tawid, yung halos lahat ng mga pwedeng i-mark sa verb ay pwedeng i-mark ng suffix, pwedeng i-mark ng prefix, pwedeng i-mark ng circumfix, depende talaga sa depende lang sa affix. Pero may order talaga ng pag-attach ng mga ito, which is parang angyon ang pwede nating isipin o Russian doll, which is nasa gitna yung root, tapos yung stem deriving affix, tapos yung secondary aspect at yung primary aspect, parang angyon po yung pwede nating isipin. Makikita po natin na naka-gray pala yung ibang box dyan. Yun po ay mga non-obligatory. Kaya kailangan pong naka-mark yung stance at primary aspect, yung agentivity, at kailangan po, syempre, kailangan ng root. Hindi magkakaroon ng verb kung walang root. Pero yung stem deriving affix at secondary aspect ay non-obligatory. Pag-usapan po natin yung ilang mga terms na ginamit dito. Siyempre, yung pinaka-familiar siguro sa atin ay yung aspect po. Sanay po siguro tayo dito. Mapapansin po natin na may tinawag ako dyan na primary aspect at secondary aspect. Yung primary aspect po ay mas broad po yung mga category na to. Ito po ay kadalasan perfective lang versus imperfective, katulad po ng iba mga Visayan languages. Pero may pumapasok din paminsan-minsan na projective aspect. Yung secondary aspect naman, ito po ay mga very specific na types ng aspect. Iterative, conative, yun yung parang nag-try ako pero hindi ko na kaya, at habitual. At yung mga secondary aspect po ay optional lang talaga at bihira lang po ito nangyayari. Tapos kahit may secondary aspect marking, hindi talaga nawawala yung primary aspect. Yun po yung aspect. Tapos yung isa pa pong nabanggit dito ay yung stance. Yung stance po ay, sorry, mag-apologize po ako kasi alam ko po hindi po ito standard na term. Yung naging problema ko po sa description ay meron pong concept sa tawid na malaki yung pagkakahawig sa tinatawag nating mode o mood. Yung indicative, imperative, ganun. Pero may kahalo po itong ibang concept kaya hindi ko po ito kayang tawagin na mode talaga. Kasi yung mode talaga, yung pagkaunawa ko po, baka may magko-comment mamaya, paliwanagan niyo po ako. Pero yung pagkakaunawa ko po sa mode ay kailangan this communicates the attitude that the speaker takes towards the statement they are making. Pero yung problema po namin sa tawid, may yung mga stances po, kasama din po yung idea na attitude that the subject of the sentence takes towards the statement or the event communicated by the statement. Kaya yung ibang mga affixes na pwede nating tawaging mode, may mga pagkakataon na yung communicate noon ay attitude ng speaker, halimbawa gusto ng speaker na mangyari ito, pero may mga time na halata na yung function nito ay gusto ng subject ng sentence na mangyari ito. Kaya hindi ko po ito natawag na mode. Kaya gumawa na lang po ako ng sarili kong tawag, stance. Tapos nagpaliwanag po ako sa grammar. Kung gusto niyo po itong basahin, pwede pong basahin doon yung mahaba kong paliwanag. Okay, ito po yung mga stance na na-communicate sa tawid. Meron po tayong indicative, imperative, sanay na po siguro tayo dyan. Yung intentive ay someone intends to make the statement true. Halimbawa, baka ako bilang speaker, gagamitin ko yung mode na to dahil gusto kong mangyari ito, ipapersuade kita. Pero posible rin na gamitin ko ito kasi yung subject ng sentence ko ay intention niya na mangyari ito. Yung potentive, sanay po siguro tayo dyan. Ito po yung idea ng potentiality na may maaaring mangyari. Yung anticipative naman ay yung idea na may talagang halos mangyayari na on the verge of becoming true. Yung favorite ko pong example nito ay yung ihing-ihi. Kadalasan lumalabas po ito sa anticipative mode sa tawid. At meron po tayong dalawang magkapares halos dyan sa dulo, yung avertive at yung optative. Yung optative po ay ginagamit kapag may gusto po tayong mangyari. At yung avertive naman ay ginagamit pag mayroon po ayaw natin na mangyari. Yun po yung stance. Makikita po natin na yung stance at primary aspect, yun po ay palaging magkasama yung marking. Kaya yung mga aspect na nagmamark ng, yung mga affix po na nagmamark ng primary aspect, palaging nakamark din po doon yung stance. Ano po, mga portmanteau affix po yung mga ito. Which is, kung titingnan po natin typologically, normal naman po sa mga wika dito sa mundo, yung tense aspect mode marking, yung medyo magkakahalo yung mga concept na to. Okay, at yung isa pa pong nabanggit dyan ay yung agentivity. Ito po ay iba sa tinatawag minsan sa Philippine linguistics na focus o Philippine voice o yung mga voice marking. Alam ko po na may iba't iba po mga analysis ng ganong phenomenon pero hindi po yun yung pinag-uusapan dito na agentivity. Ang alam ko po may phenomenon din ganito sa ibang mga languages dito sa Pilipinas. At sa ibang mga analysis, tinatawag po yung opposition na to na dynamic versus potentive. Which is yung dynamic ay refers to a verb that prototypically refers to an action. Someone or something did X. Tapos yung potentive refers to an event. Something happened to someone or something. Hindi ko po ginamit yung dynamic at potentive kasi yung problema po, yung potentive po ay tawag po yun sa isang mode o stance. Kaya nakakalito kasi magkaiba po yung affixation sa tawid. May iba mga languages na yung affixation nila sa potentive mode at yung affixation nila sa non-agentive ay magkapareho. Kaya okay po sa mga language na yun na gamitin yung salitang potentive. Pero sa tawid, magkaiba po yung affixation. Kaya kailangan po ng ibang term. At yung napansin ko rin po sa mga verbs na ito, yung mga agentive, yung subject po nila, yung nagre-receive ng nominal case marking, kung may case marking, ito po ay kadalasan agent siya o malaki yung pagkakahawig niya sa agent. Halimbawa, experiencer siya na control yung experience. Pag non-agentive, kadalasan, ito po ay hindi agent yung subject. Kadalasan undergoer siya. Ito po, may example po tayo dito. Ito po yung mga agentive verbs. Agentive po yung mga affix na nakakabit dyan. Phone, to give, falang, to strike, kawat, to make, glo, to walk, glong, to say, igdanyo, to sing, tao yung kumakanta, tapos guni, to sing of birds. Ito po ay mga agentive verbs. Ito po ay mga ginagawa, mga actions, mga action process verbs. At kung interested po kayo sa idea na to, baka pwede pong basahin yung chapter sa grammar, chapter 7 yata tungkol sa verb class. Doon po talaga ipinaliwanag kung ano po mga category ng verb ang may agentive marking, kung alin po yung may non-agentive marking, at kung alin po yung maaaring tumanggap ng agentive o non-agentive marking, at kung ano po yung semantic difference pag nangyari yun. Ito po yung mga halimbawa ng non-agentive: katong, to fall, karaska, to become red, kamin, to be used up, kalto, to explode. So makikita po natin na hindi naman po ito straight for transitive versus intransitive, kasi meron pong mga intransitive na agentive. Pero yung lahat po ng pasok sa non-agentive ay mga intransitive po. At meron pong third value ng agentivity sa tawid na parang sumusulpot-sulpot din, pero kadalasang kinocombine yung non-agentive at yung category na ito. At ito po yung adversative. Kapag adversative po yung marking na ginamit, ang ibig sabihin po ay ito po ay experience na parang it's an adverse experience for the experiencer. Kaya gadailan, to be sick, gaburo, to have a cold, gafanawa, to worry. Ito po yung mga adversative verb. Pero kadalasan, kinocombine po yung non-agentive at adversative. Depende po sa morphology. Okay. At siguro, napansin po natin sa explanation na ito, wala po akong binanggit na mga voice affixes o minsan yung tinatawag na mga focus affixes sa Philippine language. Ngayon, ang alam ko po na medyo controversial po na area ito ng Philippine linguistics. At hindi po ako naririto upang sabihan po yung mga experts sa mga ibang mga Philippine language kung paano po yung tamang description ng ganitong system. Ang alam po, may system na minsan tinatawag na focus, minsan tinatawag na Philippine voice, symmetrical voice, tapos meron din po tayong ergative analysis. Pero yung lahat ng mga ito, may dinidescribe silang system ng voice o parang voice na affixation sa mga verbs sa mga Philippine languages. At yung nagiging effect ng system na to, siyempre pwede natin pagdebatihan kung ano mismo yung nangyayari. Pero yung nagiging effect nito ay yung subject-like argument. Pwedeng pagdebatihan kung talagang subject ba ito, kung anong tamang tawag. Pero yung most subject-like argument ay nag-iiba-iba yung semantic role. Kasi yung affix sa verb yung nagsasabi kung ano yung mismong semantic role ng argument na to. Ngayon, mapapansin po natin na wala po akong dinescribe na ganong system sa verb na to sa tawid. At yun po ay dahil wala pong system na ganon sa tawid. Yun po, alam ko po na medyo nakapagtataka yung finding na to. At talagang nagtaka po ako nung una po akong natuto ng tawid. May nagsabi po sa akin na missionary na wala pong system na ganun sa tawid. Hindi po ako naniwala. Tapos unti-unti po akong natuto ng tawid at tama nga pala yung naunang missionary. Ngayon, importante po dito na i-disentanggal natin yung historic at synchronic analysis. Anong ibig sabihin? Yung historic analysis, yun po ay yung pagko-compare sa ibang mga wika, naghahanap po tayo ng mga reflex ng iba't ibang affixes. Yung synchronic naman ay, yung pinag-usapan po ay kung ano po yung grammar ng tawid sa mismong panahong ito. Ano po yung grammar na ginagamit ng mga tawid speaking communities ngayon sa Mindoro. At magkaiba po yung dalawang goal na yun. Hindi ko naman po sinasabi na yung mga affixes na ginagamit sa voice o focus sa ibang mga Philippine languages ay wala sa tawid. Kung maghahanap po tayo ng mga reflexes na mga affixes na yun, may mga makikita po tayong kandidato. Pero hindi po yung ginagamit bilang voice affix sa tawid. Tingnan po natin yung isang halimbawa. Ito po. Medyo mahaba yung halimbawa, pero actually yung kailangan nyo lang pong tingnan ay yung first two words sa dalawang halimbawang ito. Yung nasa taas, igbulaw kuibat nanuranan, I take my companion's possessions. Makikita po natin na may verb po dyan, igbol. Tapos yung kasunod po niyang pronoun ay nominative po, yung case marking. Tapos sa baba, meron ulit tayong verb, gabulo na usik motor, I want to get a motorbike. Makikita po natin na yung root ng verb ay magkaparehas, bull. Tapos mapapansin po natin na sa dulo po ng pangalawang verb may un suffix, which is pwede nating sabihin na maaari po itong affix reflex sa tawid ng Proto-Austronesian un na sumusupot po sa maraming mga wika dito sa Pilipinas na marking ng kadalasan tinatawag na object voice, patient voice. Ngayon, makikita po natin dito sa tawid na itong verb, kahit meron po itong un suffix, yung nangyari po, yung marking po dyan sa pronoun ay nominative pa rin po. Kaya wala pong pagbabago sa case marking kahit tinagdagan po yung verb ng un suffix. Yung function po ng suffix na yan sa tawid ngayon ay modal o stance. Kahit sabihin po natin na baka sa sinaunang panahon ay may iba itong function sa tawid, sa panahon po natin ngayon ay nawala na po ito. Ito po isa pa pong halimbawa, gamit naman po yung un suffix na voice suffix din sa ibang mga languages dito sa Pilipinas o yung analysis ng iba ay applicative. Mahaba ulit yung mga example pero tingnan lang po natin yung kailangan lang maunawaan na yung first two words. Yung unang example, dungugaw ngaro te ega mayong wasiring. I can hear, I think that someone is already snoring. Yung dungog, makikita po natin, simple lang siya, wala po siyang suffix. Tapos yung kasunod po niyang pronoun ay awu. Kung siyempre matitempt po tayong i-translate sa Tagalog na nakikinig ako. Pero kung titingnan naman po natin yung kasunod na sentence, igdungganaw, tego diog salan, and listen to whether you're getting it wrong, makikita po natin na may un suffix dito. At matitempt po tayo, kung hindi po natin titingnan mabuti yung case marking, matitempt po tayong i-translate ito sa Tagalog na pinapakinggan ko kasi may un suffix. Pero kung titingnan po natin yung case marking, ito po ay nominative pa rin. Kaya ang ibig ko pong sabihin ay kung pag-aaralan po natin ng mabuti yung morphology ng verb sa tawid, marami po tayong makikitang mga example ng mga affixes na kung makikita po natin ito na sa ibang mga Philippine languages, ito po ay mga voice marking affixes o focus marking affixes. Pero sa tawid po, nag-iba po yung mga function ng mga ito. Ito po halimbawa, stem deriving affix po yung an na yan. Nang ma-mark po siya ng increased volition on the part of the experiencer. Okay. Kung ako po yung tatanungin, kung paghahanapin po ako sa tawid ng possible counter-argument, sa analysis na wala pong focus o Philippine voice sa tawid, para sa akin po, yung pinakamalakas na counter-argument ay ito pong nominalization sa tawid. Ngayon po, marami po tayong nominalizing affix sa tawid at kung titingnan po natin ang lahat ng mga ito, baka isipin po natin na, yung iba mga yan, parang mukha yung focus o voice affix. At nandyan po yung affix na fag-on at fag-an. Okay pa ba tayo sa time?
Yes, Hannah, you may proceed. We started late, so we could actually end
Okay.
siguro mga 10 minutes
Pag
after
sumusobra na,
yes.
pakisabi lang po ha. So there are two nominalizing affixes, fag-on and fag-an, that seem to resemble patient and location focus or voice affixes in better known Philippine languages. Ngayon, pwede natin sabihin, could these affixes actually be verbal affixes and not actually nominalizing affixes? Ngayon, alam naman po natin, dalawang halimbawa po ito, alam naman po natin na kadalasan sa mga Philippine languages, yung mga affix na ginagamit sa finite verb ay pwede rin gamitin sa nominalization. Kaya baka sabihin po natin, ay baka yung mga sinasabi ni Hannah na nominalization, baka yung ibang mga yan finite verb naman. Pero, para sa akin po, hindi po natin ito masasabi. Kasi kung maghahanap po tayo ng mga clause na may ginamit na fag-on o fag-an, tapos walang ibang verb, tapos sabihin natin, baka mukhang pwede ang verb. Yung mapapansin po natin, yung mga clitics po sa clause na yun ay mali po ang pwesto. Kasi yung clitics po sa taubuin, kailangan po ito po ay kasunod ng first element sa predicate. Kaya kung meron po tayong verbal predicate, yung clitics po ay didikit po talaga sa verb. Hindi po ito kasunod ng iba pang mga bagay-bagay sa sentence. At mapapansin po natin sa clause dyan, yung example na dyan, meron pong fakesugon na binanggit dyan. Baka maaari natin isipin na baka pwedeng verb yan. Pero mapapansin po natin na yung mga clitics ay mali ang pwesto. Kasunod po sila ng pronoun na kanya. Kaya ang analysis ko po sa mga sentence na ganito ay noun phrase, noun phrase. Noun phrase po yung predicate. At actually, yung predicate po sa sentence na ito ay hindi yung fakesugon kasi mali po yung position ng clitics. Yung predicate po dito ay yung kanya. At meron pa pong, para sa akin, mas nakakubidsi pa na evidence. Kasi ang napag-usapan po natin kanina, yung negation sa taubuid, kapag noun phrase po yung predicate, iba po yung negation kapag sa negation pag hindi noun phrase ang predicate. At mapapansin po natin na yung mga negation, kapag may fag-on o fag-an form po tayo, yung negation po ay yung negation talaga kapag noun phrase ang predicate. Hindi po ito katulad ng noun phrase kapag verb ang predicate. Halimbawa, ito po, isang verbal predicate, sisian kon sinando. Yung mga bata nangangain ng sinando, hindi ko po alam yung Tagalog ng sinando. Basta it's a type of taro, very large leaves. So children eat elephant ear taro. Ngayon, kung i-negate po natin ito, syempre marami tayong options sa negator, pero yung isang pwede ay itong negator na dwa. Sisian dwa kon sinando. Children don't eat elephant ear taro. Tapos, ito naman, isang clause na pinalitan po natin yung finite verb na kon, pinalitan po natin ito ng fag-on form. Sisian fakonon sinando. Ngayon yung translation ko po dyan, what children eat is elephant ear taro. Pero baka titignan natin, parang magkamukha naman yung sisian kon sinando at yung sisian fakonon sinando, baka sabihin po natin mukhang verbal clause din yata yan. Pero kung tatry po natin itong inegate, ay hindi po natin ito mananegate ng katulad ng verbal clause. Kasi yung dua po ay bawal dyan. Yung kailangan po, kung gusto po natin itong inegate, yung kailangan po natin gamitin ay bunwa, which is yung bun ay reflex po ng bakan. At ito po ay required sa mga cases na noun phrase po yung predicate. At mapapansinin po natin na mali rin yung position ng negator. Kasi pag verb po yung predicate, actually, kahit ano yung ninenegate nating predicate, dapat mauna yung negator sa predicate. Hindi po dapat sumunod yung negator sa predicate. Halimbawa dyan, yung kon po yung predicate, kaya yung dwa ay nauuna po sa kon. Tapos dito naman, sa sisian fakonon, bunwa sinando, yung bunwa naman ay kasunod ng fakonon. Kaya ibig sabihin, yung fakonon po dyan ay hindi yung predicate. Yung predicate po dyan ay yung sinando. Which is, ibig sabihin, ito po ay isang noun phrase clause. An equative clause, zero copula. Sisian fakonon, pagkain ng mga bata, tandaan po natin yung fakonon po ay nominalization, tapos sa taubuid yung mga genitive noun ay nauuna sa mga possessed noun, yung head noun. Kaya sisian fakonon ay normal lang na word order sa taubuid kapag meron po tayong genitive at head noun. Tapos yung bunwa naman ay normal na negator kapag noun phrase, yung structure ng clause natin. Tapos yung sinando naman ay noun phrase din. Kaya kung pipilitin po natin i-analyze ito na verbal clause, para lang magkatugma-tugma yung analysis natin sa taubuid at sa ibang mga Philippine languages, pinapahirapan lang po talaga natin ang sarili natin. Kasi ang dami po nating idadagdag na mga paliwanag. Kailangan po natin sabihin na yung mga non-agent voice na verb sa taubuid ay iba yung position ng clitics pag ganito ang ginamit, iba yung position ng negator at yung negator ay yung negator na bagay sa mga noun phrase. Kaya para sa akin po, mas madali po talagang sabihin na ito po ay nominalization talaga. Kasi nagiging mas elegant, nagiging mas clear ang ating analysis sa grammar. At ito po yung parang bagay rin po ito sa mga intuition ng mga informant. Nagre-research po ako ngayon sa isa pang wika sa Mindoro at plano pong i-publish yung mga findings ko pag natapos ko na po yung write-up. At ang makikita po natin doon ay kahit pinag-translate yung mga native speaker mula sa ibang languages, hindi po nila ginagamit yung mga fag-on at fag-an form para mag-translate ng mga voices galing sa ibang Philippine languages. Yung intuition po nila ay ito po ay mga nominalized forms lang. Okay. Papalagay ko naka 40 minutes na tayo. Kung may check ko lang yung oras na.
Hana, meron ka pang time? Maybe 5 minutes more? Kung meron,
Okay. Meron ba po tayong question time?
Meron pagkatapos ng 5 minutes.
Kung wala, magpapatuloy lang ako. Pero kung meron po tayong mga tanong, baka
Yes,
gusto po natin magtanong, imbis na ako lang po yung nagsasalita.
Okay. Mag-take tayo ng questions after. So, ang ating mga audience, please prepare your questions for the Q&A later.
Okay. Ay di, hanggang dito na lang muna yung presentation ko.
Sige.
Sorry. Nakamute yata kanina yung ano ko, kaya hindi ko narinig kung may iba kayong sinabi. Sorry po.
Wala naman. Okay lang. So, I guess that ends, no? Pero kung meron tayong tanong kay Hana to continue her presentation, we can now start asking our questions. So while waiting for a question, siguro I would like to make a comment muna, no? Napaka different. Napaka-different talaga, napaka-iba ng struktura ng Eastern Taubuid. Tama ba pag-pronounce? How do you pronounce yung language?
Okay, Taubuid. Yung tau
Taubuid.
ay cognate ng tao, tapos yung buid naman ay cognate ng bukid. Yung mga intervocalic na K sa Proto-Austronesian na wala sa Taubuid.
Okay. So, ayun, Taubuid. So, very different ang Taubuid. So, hindi ko alam, akala ko mas magiging conservative ang Taubuid considering yung kanilang locations ba? Pero it seems mas madami silang na-lost na phonemes pa, no? Na
Yung Mangyan languages ay may dalawang groupings, yung Northern Mangyan at yung Southern Mangyan. Tapos sa loob ng Southern Mangyan, may subgroup po tayo, which is sa ethnologue, kung titingnan po natin, ang tawag po dito ay Taubuid Buhid. Para sa akin medyo pangit yung pangalan kasi actually 4 yung member. Kaya yung para sa akin yung tawag ko ay Buhidik, parang kamag-anak ng bilik, ganon. Pero tapos yung mga Buhidic languages, may mga shared innovations po ito. Talagang phonologically innovative po yung mga ito, yung mga intervocalic K, initial K nawawala, o sa isang language, sa Buhid, nagiging H. Tapos yung ibang mga historically, syempre yung glottal stop nawala, yung historic H nawala, yung historic P naging F, at yung ibang mga yung historic na diphthong o dalawang vowel na magkasunod, nagiging isang vowel na lang. Kaya yung dahon ay nagiging don. Kasi yung H na wala, tapos down, yung aw, naging o.
Very interesting. Nakakatuwa. Sana dito yung aking friend, yung aking good friend na nag-aaral ng Bilic languages. I'm sure she will be, your study will be very helpful sa study ni Miss Hana Letdomoron. If you're here, shout out to you. Ayan. So,
I think kailangan rin nating alalahanin na hindi lang Taubuid no may innovative na structure sa Mindoro. May paper si Dr. Lawrence Reid noong 2017, may mga comments siya si Iraya na Northern Mangyan. Tapos napansin ko may taga-UP na nag-aral din ng Iraya. May mga interesting na findings doon. Kaya yung Iraya at yung Taubuid, lexically, hindi talaga sila magkamag-anak, pero pareho po silang taga-Mindoro at mayroon pong talagang weird sa context ng Philippines, yung mga morphological at syntactic innovations nila.
So, napansin ko din kanina, yung unang-una kong napansin is yung monophthongization na nangyari dito sa Taubuid kasi alam ko yon dahil sa Kapampangan. So yung sabaw mo ay sabo din sa Kapampangan. Oo, sabo.
Oo.
Ang taytay, yung tulay, alam ko taytay daw yun eh. Tete na lang siya. So,
Sa
yun.
tawid din, talete, it's to walk along a narrow thing.
Oh, ang saya. So, I guess we can now take questions from our audience. Meron na po ba tayong phone-in questions through chat? Or, tama no? Or kung meron kayong gustong magtanong, just raise your hand. Or, pwede ba yun, sir? Can they ask questions themselves?
Yes, yes. Pwede silang magpadala ng tanong sa Q&A natin.
Ayun, may tanong yata.
Ayan,
Yes,
may
pumasok
tanong.
na tanong. Sir Ringe?
Ayan, sige. Napaka-interesting ng kanyang tanong, Hana. So, paano
Mhm.
daw sasabihin ang iniibig kita
Okay.
sa tawid?
Actually,
Alin ang nagiging subject? Ang first person or ang second person?
yung nagiging subject po ay yung first person. Yung tawid po ay nominative accusative. Pag meron pong agent o experiencer sa clause, ito po yung nagiging subject. Kaya kesug, awu, emu. Kesug, actually cognate ito ng isug, yung galit sa ibang mga languages. Pero sa tawid, nagkaroon tayo ng semantic shift. Mula galit, naging, pero medyo yung idea ng pagiging madamot. Tapos nag-shift pa yung idea of valuing something, cherishing, loving. Kesog, awo, ako, emo. Aibo, yung historical na pinanggalinan.
Ayun po, kesog.
Pwede kong i-type para may kopya
sige,
po tayo
ayan,
dyan
sige.
sa chat.
Okay.
Kesog, awo, emo.
Ayan. So, Sir Aldrin, do you have any questions?
Unang-una, maraming salamat kay Hana. Napakagaling mong mag-Tagalog. At nakakatuwa na natuto ka rin ng Tawbuid, no? Siguro yung unang tanong ko, yung tanong ko pala ay, kung sinabi mo kasi kanina yung D, yung negator na D at saka bukon, di ba? And you said na yung D ay for non-NP predicates. And then kapag nominal yung predicate, bukon yung ginagamit. So, ibig sabihin kapag adjectival yung predicate, D yung ginagamit. Hindi siya nag-align with nominal.
Okay. Actually, sorry kasi medyo pinasimple yung sinabi ko kanina. Pero yung D, tama po yung sinabi nun, yung pag-adjectival, D po yung ginagamit. Yung bone po ay sa nominal lang. Pero actually, yung bone po, dahil kailangan niya ng kasamang negator, actually, yung D po na stand-alone, yun po yung pang-verbal o adjectival. Tapos yung bone po, required po yan sa mga noun phrase predicate. Kaya actually, yung bone, pwede rin po yung sundan ng D, bone D. Kung mayroon po tayong positive evaluation, tapos yung structure ng clause ay noun phrase predicate, bundi po yung sasabihin natin.
Okay. I'm asking the question kasi sa ibang languages, ang bukon ay ginagamit for nominal and adjectival predicate, di ba? Okay. So
pero sa Tawid po, limited po ito sa nominal predicate.
Okay, interesting. Ringe?
Yeah.
Ayan. So, do we have any more questions from the audience? So habang wala pa silang question. So, you mentioned the nominative, at least ang case marker ng ng tawbuhid. Pero what can you say about yung alignment system ng tawbuhid? Does it fit any or close to any system na ginagamit ngayon sa Philippine languages?
Okay, yung pagkaunawa ko ay iba po talaga ito sa ginagamit sa mga described Philippine languages. Baka may makikita po kayo dyan sa screen na case marking. Halimbawa lang ito. Pero makikita po natin na yung nominative sa verbless clause, sa intransitive verbal clause, ito po ay pagdating po natin sa transitive verbal clause, ginagamit po ito sa agent o sa experiencer. At kung gusto po nating gawing nominative, yung undergoer o patient, may paraan po ito. Pero, kailangan mawala si agent. Kailangan maging impersonal passive. Kaya, bawa ko ng impersonal passive. Okay, so may paraan para maging nominative yung patient o undergoer, pero kailangan mawala yung agent para mangyari yun,
Mm.
which is consistent naman sa nominative accusative language.
Mhm.
Meron po tayong 3 exception. May 3 verbs sa buong language na pwedeng magstay yung agent pag nangyari yon. Pero kailangan, may restriction, kailangan actually yung agent ay kailangan hindi siya tunay na agent, kailangan force siya. Yung pagkakaiba ng agent at force, yung agent ay in control of the action, aware. Yung force naman ay parang hindi po ito in control, hindi po ito aware. Kaya ito po yung halimbawa. Yung 3 verbs ay tagat, to cut, git, to crush, and sungad, to pierce someone's skin. Yan po yung 3 verbs sa buong wika ng Taubuid na pwedeng maging nominative, yung undergoer, tapos yung agent ay pwedeng ma-mention bilang adjunct noun phrase. Pero ito ay pwede lang kapag inanimate na force yung agent. Halimbawa si Juan in git at Juanan, Juan was crushed by the tree he was chopping down. Si Juan dyan ang subject. Wala siyang case marking kasi noun phrase. Pero kung gagawin niyang pronoun, nominative yung case marking dyan. Yung at Juanan, pwede yung mag-remain dyan bilang adjunct noun phrase dahil tree lang siya, natumba lang siya, wala siyang isip. Siyempre hindi sinadya ng tree na patayin si Juan. Pero kung bata naman, my baby was squashed by the elder sibling, bawal. Kasi yung bata may isip. Kaya pag ganun, pag bata ang nag-squash, kailangan yung agent ang subject. Okay. At 3 verbs lang. Sa 3 verbs lang yan nag-a-apply.
Okay.
Parang minsan feeling mo parang gusto lang ng language community na gumawa ng exception na pampahaba ng thesis. Pero
Very good. Very interesting. May comment si Edward ng UP tungkol sa stance. Edward?
Hi, Hannah. So, ayun. Regarding stance, nabasa ko na yung Instagrammer mo and yung mga categories na na-mention mo, I think similar ito sa typological categories ng modal systems. So, I think kaya ko siya kinomen kasi I think by using stance, I think magiging impervious yung Eastern Taubuid sa cross-linguistic analysis. Kasi you mentioned may mga categories like optative, imperative. So, hindi kasi na-mention kung ano yung forms na tinitake nila. Well, yung imperatives ay morphologically expressed. Yung optative ay depend mo kung ano ba siya, kung particle ba siya or affix. Pero ayun, yung mga categories na na-mention, part siya ng typological categories na binuo ni Frank Palmer on his book about modality. Yun lang naman.
Okay. Would you like to respond to that, Hannah?
Yeah, para sa akin, actually torn ako kung magandang gamitin yung salitang mode. At actually, sa isang stage ng grammar, mode po talaga yung ginamit ko. Pero yung feedback po ng reviewer, nung dumaan po ito sa peer review, ay hindi naman mode pag ganyan. Kaya napilitan po ako gumawa ng ibang term. Tapos, ayun. Kaya baka sa future revision, balikan ko po yung mode. At sorry, hindi ko po talaga naipaliwanag na mabuti kanina yung affixation kasi syempre 1 hour lang po tayo at yung Taubuid ay pwede po nating pag-aralan ng 1 semester. Pero kung babasahin niyo po yung grammar, makikita niyo po talaga doon yung affixation na ginamit dyan sa optative, avertive, mga ganon. At iniisa-isa ko po talaga dyan yung mga affixes. So yung mga modes na binanggit ko dyan, yung mga stance o mode, yun po lahat ay dala po ng affixation. Iba po yan sa mga kino-communicate ng mga clitic. Part po yan ng verbal morphology.
Wow. So napaka-rich ng meaning ng affixes sa inyo kasi sa ITNEG yung mga ganyan ay kunyari optative, clitic yan, particle. So yun sa tawid yan ay
Affix.
affix.
At
Okay.
kahit yung mga maliliit na bata, pag naglalaro ng games o pag nag-aaway, naririnig po sa kanila yung optative. Yung nagro-roll ng dice, fagum-kunum, anim sana.
Wow.
Kaya kailangan po nating isipin na syempre nawala sa tawid yung mga Philippine voice, yung mga focus o ergative o kung ano pong tawag natin, nawala po yan. Pero hindi naman ibig sabihin na tawid is deprived. Kasi yung naging reorganization sa language nila ay nagkaroon po sila ng paraan to express more fine-grained semantic distinctions on the verb. Which is very
Yes, very interesting. Meron tayong another question dito. So are there words or terms in Taugwid language that have similar structure in Filipino language? I'm not sure.
Siyempre,
Yeah.
yung mga words, marami pong words sa Taugwid na similar sa ibang mga Philippine languages. Actually, kung titingnan po natin ay yung vocabulary po niya ay bagay po talaga siya sa Greater Central Philippine. Kaya nagkakaroon po tayo ng problema kasi lexically, at kung titingnan po natin ng mga sound shift, nasa family po siya ng Greater Central Philippine, pero yung structure po ay parang hindi. Kaya unsolved mystery pa po yan. Pero kung titingnan po natin yung ibang mga language sa Mindoro, talagang there's something in the water there with the morphosyntactic structure.
So sa palagay mo, Hannah, saan siya pinaka-closest kung hindi siya GCP?
Actually, hindi ko, nung
pala.
ginawa ko yung grammar, nagda-doubt talaga ako na GCP. Pero kung titingnan siya, lexically, GCP talaga siya. Kaya yung wild theory ko, baka may substratum effect. Ewan.
Okay, so we have another question. Sabi dito, parang overlapping ang mode, modality, stance, aspect. Did you feel the verb categories can be simplified?
Siyempre, parang may mas matutuwa sa akin kung yung stance ay tatawagin ko na lang na mode. Kaya yun siguro yung first step para ma-simplify. Pero ang problema din kasi, siyempre, pag tinitingnan po natin ito typologically, mahirap talagang i-distinguish yung ibang mga type ng tense aspect mode marking. Kaya nagkakaroon po tayo ng TAM minsan para parang magkasama na lang dun sa isang affix yung iba. Para sa akin, yung pinanghahawakan ko sa linguistic analysis ay we should posit grammatical categories when these are useful for our analysis, when they make our analysis more elegant, when they enable us to describe categories that we would otherwise struggle to distinguish. At para sa akin, kung titingnan po natin yung affixation sa Taugwid, parang may ibang mga affix layers. At kung titingnan natin yung mga affix layers na yun, parang may relationship yung mga affix layers yun sa mga semantic categories. Kaya ko po yan ginawan ng mga labels na secondary aspect, primary aspect, ganun. Para sa akin, hindi naman po ito pinapropose na gawin sa ibang mga languages. Kung ano lang po talaga yung bagay sa language na dinidescribe. Siyempre, another language might decide to group them very differently. Yeah. So
Ayun, oo. Tama yun. Oo nga, why would you make things difficult ba?
Yeah.
And Rins,
yes, sir.
we could remind our participants that Hannah actually wrote this for us, her MA thesis, tama ba? Sir Master's thesis.
Technically po honors, pero wala pong honors dito sa Pilipinas. Siguro yung pinakamalapit na katumbas ay Masters.
Yeah. Yes, may mga honors program din dito, Hannah, hindi lang sa linguistics, but we have honors program in other disciplines and usually leading towards Masters yun, di ba? Parang it's a combination of BA and MA. So siguro magandang tanongin si Hannah, how long did it actually take for you to do the field work and then isulat yung thesis mo. Also, ini-encourage ba yung pag-aaral ng understudied lesser known languages sa unit or sa institution where you actually obtain your degree?
Yung nangyari po kasi ay may contact na po ako sa community bago ko simulan yung sa New Zealand may 3 years lang ang BA. Tapos kung pasok sa honors, ini-invite na mag 1 year. Tapos yung 1 year na yun ay parang postgraduate. Nung bago ko po simulan yung 1 year na yun, may contact na po ako sa community. Nagsimula na ako ng, syempre, unofficial fieldwork. Kaya nung dumating po ng official fieldwork ko, marami na po ako mga text, marunong na po ako mag-tawid, marami na po ako mga na-elicit. Kaya, ayun. Actually, 1 year lang po yung pagsusulat ng grammar. Tapos, 6 years po yung revision. Yung nangyari, syempre, nag-join ako sa SIL, nagkaroon ako ng responsibilidad sa Bible translation, kaya hindi na ako nakututok doon. Pero after some years, I felt that some of the analysis could really be updated. Ang gulo ng morphology ko sa una, wala akong paliwanag tungkol sa verb class. Kaya in-update ko, tapos yun po yung na-publish. At para sa akin, napakahalaga po ng papel ng pag-document sa mga underdocumented languages. Kasi kung magre-rely lang po tayo sa mga surveys, sa marami po tayong hindi mapapansin. Kasi kung yung nag-survey po noon sa Taubuid, si Zork, Dr. Zork, maganda po yung survey na ginawa niya sa Mindoro. Pero syempre dahil mga words po yung focus niya, mga sound shift at konti lang sa grammar, na-miss po niya yung mga interesting na features ng mga Bukidic languages. At para sa akin, yun po yung kahalagahan ng in-depth na documentation ng Philippine language. Kaya napakahalaga po. At sa university ko po noon, hindi po ito masyadong in-encourage. Wala po kaming class noon ng field linguistics. Pero nung natapos po yung dissertation ko, medyo nag-isip po yung mga lecturer, gumawa po sila ng class. Kaya meron na po sila doon ngayon. Kaya natuto na lang ako sa pagbabasa ng books, sa pag-interview sa mga mas experienced kaysa sa akin. Kaya maganda po talaga kung ma-encourage ng mga university yung mga interested sa linguistics na gumawa ng field linguistics. Kasi ang saya po kapag may mga friend tayo sa community, pag natututo po tayo tungkol sa wika nila, ang ganda talaga.
Yes.
Okay. Prince, maybe last question na, no?
Last question. Pili tayo.
Si iPad 2 interested yata sa transitivity sa Taubuid.
Yeah, si
sige,
iPad 2
ayun na lang.
nakatatlong tanong na si iPad 2. Hindi pa natin siya kilala. Pero parang kilala ko to, Range. Tama ba na ang initial niya ay RC?
RC.
Sir Resty, magpakita ka. Si Sir Resty yata to eh. I'm sorry for outing you, Sir Resty. But anyway, baka we could, maybe Hannah could respond to his last question.
Yeah, there is an English type transitive construction in Taubuid. Yung naging focus ko po dito ay i-establish na may subject. Pero kung titingnan po natin yung case marking at yung mga semantic properties ng Taubuid, meron po talaga mga transitive sentence. Ngayon, hindi ko po napatunayan sa stage na to na yung lahat ng mga sentence sa Taubuid na may agent o experiencer na nominative tapos merong kasamang ibang noun phrase, hindi ko po napatunayan yung iba dyan kung talagang object ba yung iba o kung adjunct noun phrase ba ito. Kasi yung problema po, yung case marking po sa mga na accusative sa Taubuid, kasama din po yan yung oblique. Kaya hindi po nagdi-distinguish yung case marking. Pero meron po mga syntactic test na pwedeng gawin para makita kung talaga bang object yung ibang mga noun phrase. At yung ibang mga noun phrase ay pasok po doon. Kaya yung mga yun ay kino-consider ko po na transitive. Tapos yung iba ay parang semi-transitive lang. Kaya may problema pa yun sa analysis ko ng Taubuid. Kaya may binanggit po ako sa grammar na quasi-object noun phrase kasi hindi ko po sure kung paano i-categorize yung iba dyan. Pero yung mga agent process verbs na merong clear na action, action process verbs, sorry, na merong clear na action, tapos merong clear itong effect sa patient, ang mga ito po ay mga syntactically transitive sa tawid, hindi lang semantically.
Ayan, maraming salamat, Hana. It's been very interesting at you really know you
Thank
really
you.
know this language, and we are grateful that you have shared this with us. So sa lahat po ng interested sa grammar ni Hana, nasa comment section po on how you can access the grammar of Eastern Tauwid. It's free access po yan.
Kulang na kulang yung oras, no, para pag-usapan Rinch yung yung
Yes.
thesis ni Hana.
Pag nabasa niyo po ito, tapos may nakita po kayong mali, wag po kayong magreklamo sa mga classmate niyo. Sa akin po kayo magreklamo. Pwede rin sa
Ayan.
akin
Okay.
para malaman ko. Kasi kung hindi niyo po ipapaalam sa akin pag nagkamali ako,
Hindi mo mababago.
Kaya ang gusto ko po talaga ay matuto. Alam ko po na marami pong nakikinig dito na may alam na ibang mga Philippine languages, nag-research sa ibang mga languages. Kaya gusto ko po matuto sa inyo.
Okay, ayan. So give Hana the feedback pag nabasa niyo po ang kanyang grammar. Okay. Ayun,
Okay.
so maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat, Hana, for sharing your work. Rinch, first time ba ito ni Hana sa
Yes, sir.
the online lecture? Thank you
First time sa Zoom.
for doing your debut, debut dito sa
Thank you po.
LSP TheSSo. We will award a certificate to Hana. So okay, so wait lang. Nakikita niyo na ba yung certificate? I'll just read the citation. So, ina-award natin yung Certificate of Appreciation na to kay Hana Fleming, no? Para sa kanyang pag-aaral na may pamagat na Key Findings from a Grammar of Eastern Tauwid bilang bahagi ng second LSP Thesis Sharing Session Online, TheSSo, ngayong June 27, 2023, via Zoom. So, permado ito ng Director of Professional Meetings ng LSP, si Dr. Dita, na merong appointment ngayon, kaya hindi siya nakasama sa TheSSo ngayong hapon, and myself as President of LSP. So again, maraming salamat, Hana, and we look forward, no, sa mga susunod mong pag-aaral na gagawin, whether sa Tauwid yan o sa mga related languages sa Mindoro, or maybe baka umabot ka ng Ratagno, no, sa bandang baba, kasi I could see a lot of similarities as well, lexically, no, between Tauwid and Ratagnon. So maraming salamat, and we will send you a copy of the PDF ng iyong certificate via email. And for questions to Hana, baka pwedeng i-type ni Hana na lang sa chat yung kanyang email para sa feedback, comments, and questions na hindi natin na-address ngayong hapon. So bigyan natin ng masigabong ipalakpak si Hana para sa kanyang sharing ngayong hapon.
Marami po talagang salamat. Honored po
Thank you.
ako na kapag-present.
Thank you, Hana.
Hey, thank you very much, Hana. See you soon. Rinch, pwede bang tulungan mo na rin ako sa second speaker natin?
Okay, sir. Sige
Okay,
po.
wait lang. Ako na yung magpapakilala sa
Sige,
kanya, pero tulungan mo ako mag-moderate.
Okay, sir.
So tuloy na tayo sa ating second speaker ngayong hapon. I-spotlight ko lang yung second speaker natin.
Hello po, Sir Adrian. I'm here.
Hello, John. Magandang hapon. So, John, I'm just going to introduce you briefly, and then we can start your sharing. So, Jean Francois Delma is a veteran software engineer and a junior linguist. Binabasa ko yung description ni John sa sarili niya, by the way. He first graduated with a Master of Science in Artificial Intelligence in Paris Sorbonne University in 1979. Even when choosing his college orientation in 1969, si John din pala yung naglagay ng mga years, no, not me. He was attracted by learning more about languages. So he chose math and physics instead and started working as a civil engineer in 1975. But when he retired in 2015, he decided that rather than investing in golf playing, it was still time to fulfill his former dreams. So he moved to Thailand and received a Master of Arts degree in linguistics from Payap University in 2018. Ang kanyang focus was on the Southeast Asia language families. Para sa kanyang MA thesis, he chose to compare the morphosyntax of the Manobo languages. Then he enrolled at UP Diliman to work on his main research interest, the Austronesian languages morphosyntax and natural language processing. He first enrolled in a PhD of computer science, but quickly found that after 40 years, his statistical computation skills were a bit too rusty. So after the pandemic interruption, he moved to work in a PhD in linguistics on the same subject instead. So he just fulfilled all the PhD class requirements. So he's done with the coursework and will start working soon at writing his dissertation on natural language processing of Tagalog or Filipino corpora. So what Jean is going to share this afternoon is actually his output in the Linguistics 399 course. This is the last research course that a PhD student in UP Diliman Department of Linguistics has to take before taking all the comprehensive exam and other necessary requirements to be able to start writing one's dissertation. So, wag na nating patagalin pa. We welcome Jean para sa kanyang planned dissertation entitled A Grammatical Annotation of a Tagalog Corpus, a Blueprint. Jean?
Salamat po. Would you mind please enabling screen sharing?
I think I already made you co-host. Not yet. Wait, let me check.
There is host disabled.
I'll make you a co-host now. Wait. All right. So you're now co-host, Jean. You can try again.
Okay, right. Yes, here we are. Okay, so I have to screen share. Okay, can you see? Yeah. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm going to speak about grammatical annotation of Tagalog corpus, blueprint, because it's a preparation of my thesis proposal. Actually, I should say a semi-automated grammatical annotation, but of course, today I will try to focus on the linguistic side of it, and I will try to reduce what I will have to say anyway about the process and system that support it to a minimum. So my name is written in the IPA for those who want to practice pronunciation French, but you may call me JFD or John. On each slide, you will have a slide number in the bottom right. So if you want to refer it for a later question, you just take note of it, or we will try to retrieve it when you ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Do I move to the next slide? Yeah, I have to go back, I think, because, yeah. Okay, so what is grammatical? So I will have basically two main parts in this presentation. One, what we are in terms of achievements today. So I've been working on this since 2018. But the last 6 months, of course, have been more steered to do a proof of concept, to prove that there is some linguistic value to do what I am trying to do. And then to demonstrate this, the second core part, chapter 3, will be presenting 3 linguistic analyses that could be based on the annotated corpus. So in the introduction, let's start stating what is for me an annotated corpora. So first, the corpus for me is a collection of selected text. Okay, so it could be It could also be, of course, speech audio records or sign videos, that's already been done. But here I'm focusing on written text that are usually organized along selection criteria of interest. So depending on the audience, for instance, literature specialists would like to have corpora where different styles of text or different kind of text, novels, poems are represented so that they can make some comparative studies. Now, annotated corpus. Is basically what we have seen in the previous presentation is when we present the grammar of language, we add glosses to make it understandable. So basically what I have been doing in the system is glosses, except that instead of being on one line, interlinear glosses abiding by the Leipzig rule, they are split into different components that can be gathered at the end of the thesis. I might do just a small conversion and produce the Leipzig rule, all the information are there. And I will quickly browse through these different lines because also they will give an introduction to the process. It's a step-by-step process whereby the computer helps and the linguist verifies. So of course, the first is to do the data entry of a sentence and sometimes the free-style translation. Then you have what is called a token. Actually, it's a word, okay? There is a slight difference between word and token. So we have a phase that is called tokenization. The very mundane one is to separate the punctuation from the word at the end of a sentence because they are orthographically written with no space. There are languages where it's not at all mundane to do this, like Thai. They write Thai without any space between the words, so it becomes a more complicated algorithm. But in the case of Tagalog, it could be very simple. That's simple, but I took the option to be a little bit more complicated. So I can do compounding, for instance, United States that are separated by a space, sorry, I could just reunite them and pretend that they are one single token for later processing. Conversely, I sometimes split a word into two tokens, like we will see NASA, could be split between na and sa under the reason that if you say na kai, you separate the two words. So if I want the tokenize the stemmer to take into consideration the similarity of syntactic environment or collocations, I separate them. It's an option. There are other options which are instead to produce labels that are compound labels. So instead of splitting the word and having no compounds of labels, you do the opposite. Then the second part is the decomposition of the words into the root and the affix. So here, only one word has an affix. It's an infix for the aspectual marker for the perfective. Which actually replace the object focus suffix in this case. So this is another step, stemmer. Then here there is a field that actually I didn't populate, which is a meaning because my thesis is steered at doing grammatical analysis, not semantical analysis. But I could populate it at some point if I was going to produce these Leipzig rule glosses. And then finally, the last line represents the core of what I'm going to discuss today, which is the post tagging. So post for part of speech. So part of speech, you are familiar with verbs, preposition, nouns, punctuation in this one. And then, of course, they have sub-labels that give further information on what the specific verb here. And for instance, just to take one example, I will not bother you with sub-labels because they are purely arbitrary. You could call this label John, and provided that you do a one-per-one change, the performance of the program who is going to do the tagging for you will be exactly the same, provided that John has the same distribution than a verb, object focus, perfective. So object focus, perfective. Okay, maybe I will have other opportunity to come back to this, but the previous speaker has already commented on this. now, why annotate a corpus? Because if you have an unannotated corpus, you can already do some syntactic analysis. You can use a concordancer and study the collocations. For instance, I installed this freeware here, and then I downloaded an article from Javier 2022. And it didn't take me, but it's very user-friendly software, very easy to install, and the explanation on how to load the text are very easy to understand. And after 20 minutes, I was able to say, okay, ask a question in the article from Javier. Tell me, show me examples of a distribution of the word na. Okay. And so you see there was a 227 hits in this text. It's a 30 pages article. Hello, can you hear me? Sorry. Okay, so I take three examples that show different usage of na. So the first one is the critic adverb that says already. So cap and simpanzing, noticeable, the difference of two dialects. Okay, this is an adjective predicate, or capag with actually the subordinating conjunction. The third one actually is a very known linker. So papel na ito. Ito is a demonstrative adjective or pronoun, if you want, that modifies the head, noun, paper. Okay, and then, the third one is also a linker, but in a more complex construction, which is Shashtan-Otanes called an object clause. Okay, so that means that nagbibigay impression of the object that could be a noun phrase. In this case, is a clause. So it's an object clause, and in Shashtan-Otanes, it's explained that it's optional, I think, linker now that is used. So, but, you know, doing this kind of thing, I have now a list of 227 sentences. Wow, really building a synthesis from this list can be very tedious. So this is the advantage of having now an annotated corpus. So I did annotations of a lot of examples of Shashtan-Otanes, and I can work on this test file and say now the question and show me the environment, syntactic environment of na as a linker. Okay, so first, my system allows me to see that na in this corpus now that I'm using has 339 instances, and it has three possible labels. One is the linker, I already discussed this. Another one is the critic adverb, and there is a third one that I didn't show, but I alluded to it, is na kai, which takes the place of NASA, which is written in one word, and in this case, na, I call it an adjective, a locative adjective. And then now restricting my view on linker na, so I say that what are the two preceding words that are most frequent with na? And I say that in 27 cases, the word just before na is an adjective, okay? So, and then if you look at the two words that are after na, the most frequent are nouns followed by a topic marker. So there is, of course, other part of speech that follow the topic marker. And actually, it's a coincidence because here is probably adjective here is used as a modifier of noun that follows, but maybe it's, of course, 27 and 18. So there are some other cases. So this is the advantage of having annotated corpus. If you want to do a thorough and detailed linguistic analysis of language that has already been documented and that has a corpus available and corpora that are annotated, you have much more power to pursue grammatical analysis of a language. So now what I showed you is a very work-intensive work. And so that's why I just alluded to it, but it's an alternation system help. And to demonstrate this, I will show you in the literature review in a moment that one of the largest corpora in English in the world, the Penn Tree Bank, so University of Pennsylvania, has 3.5 million words, okay? And of course, they had many linguists working for many years on tagging this work. So they have a good data on the productivity, okay? And per annotator, they find that if the process is purely manual, if you ask linguists to manually tag sentences, it takes them 44 minutes per 1,000 words. So 1,000 words, depending on the style of the text, a sentence could be from 10 to 20 words. So it's 100 sentences or less, 50 sentences, okay? Whereas if they benefit proposed tagging first by program, and then they just correct it, it goes more than twice the speed. Okay, so really there is an advantage of having some support from program to doing this corpora. And probably the fact that in some languages you don't have a corpus yet is because the taggers are not available yet. So 2 slides on showing you the state of the art. The first one on English corpora. They are very mature now. People have been working on this for at least 30 years. You know, there is even an English corpus. I think at the beginning it was not annotated, the Brown corpus. That's 1 million word in English, was done in England. Then the pen tree bank I talked about, which was, you know, the main period where they wrote about this is 93. Then you have the British National Corpus, which is huge, 100 million words, but not all tagged, of course. And then you have the International Corpus of English, where, by the way, there is a Philippine English segment that was documented by Bautista in 2004. So here you have figures about the size of this corpora, and then the second one gives you the few references of the main the researchers who worked on this. So here I said I will not talk about the IT, so there is the name of the algorithm here, but one is important is this column about accuracy. I will come to back. So sorry for this slide is very old and I couldn't retrieve the original. I wrote it in 2018, so my Excel was still set up to the decimal comma in French that you use in French, that they use in Indonesia as well, by the way, but in Thailand, so I have no excuse, they use the decimal point as well. So I could have changed it earlier. And accuracy, sorry for the typo. But here it's the performance, if you want, and I will come to a more better definition. But it says that basically this that are the state of the art. So we cannot reach much further. 97% accuracy means that 3 out of 100 words are wrong. You know, the label that is proposed is wrong. So it shows you why the linguists still need to verify the tagging. And when you think about it, it's 3 errors per 100 words is probably 1 every 4 or 5 sentences that has a problem. Okay, so really we need to review them. Okay, now what about Tagalog? So because I'm not going to work on the thesis if things already exist. Actually, so there is literature as well. So you see first that they started much later. You see second that the accuracy at the beginning was not close to 97%, but this is normal because the only software available on the market was steered to tagging English, which is syntactically, well, morphologically simple. Okay, there is almost no derivation, no, at least no affixation, no derivation, no conjugation, and of course Tagalog is morphologically rich. So they first had to write programs that could do this stemming that I was describing, the split between labels and roots. But then after a while, okay, they caught up, and the 2 best state-of-the-art results at the moment are the one from Manggilimotan and Matsumoto. Manggilimotan, she's a Filipina, but she was working under Professor Matsumoto, who is in Tokyo University. I'm not sure which one. And she reached 94% plus. And then Go and Dokkan from GLSU, I believe at that time, 2017, they reached 96.15. So now very close to what we reach for English. Again, with a handicap that Tagalog is morphologically rich and more complicated to probably to annotate. So my appraisal, because I say, okay, now what do we have here, and what are the gaps? Okay, well, I'm going to try to write a thesis that be valuable from a linguistic standpoint. So Annotated Filipino texts have been produced, okay, in the past, but none is publicly available. So there was a quite old one, So McFarland wrote a frequency count of Filipino, and he actually published a dictionary, 5,000 words only. But the benefit, one of the benefits of having an annotated corpus as well is that you can, when you publish dictionaries, you can draw upon the examples and illustrate your dictionary entries with example in context of a given word. And he did this actually. Then Mangeli Botan and Matsumoto and Go Nokon that I have quoted, so I give you the references here. And finally, Charles Dita, Roxas, Inventado, they built, they published this article, Building Online Corpora, and they did build an online corpora. Unfortunately, it is not available anymore. So basically, I found that there is nothing available, so maybe it's worth resuming the work, trying to understand why it didn't go through. It was not sustained effort, and maybe contribute. So now the other problem, my assessment, is that the software engineers and the linguists have been working in silos, separate. I mean, most of the article I gave you the reference about are written in computer, in software engineers, thesis or article, and basically the software engineer, when they have beaten their colleague in terms of performance, they say, okay, I found an algorithm that is more performant. And if the linguists don't get involved, they stay there. They say, okay, 96%, I'm better than the one who has done 95%. But if no linguist is using their work afterwards, okay, so it does require a collaborative effort. And actually, Manning, again from the Penn State team, wrote an article in 2011 saying part of speech tagging from 97% to 100%. Is it time for some linguistics? So he's also both on computer science and linguistic, and he was emphasizing that 97% might be a glass ceiling, actually, because it's close to the performance that if you have a team of linguists that have to agree on the tagging of the words, in some case they will disagree. So in teams, they do this by adjudication, and then they enrich advice on how to tag. But basically, the software is not going to do better because even the linguists, they don't do, if they, unless they do adjudication, they might disagree on the labels themselves. Okay, so that's why one more reason for having the linguist involved at this stage. Okay, so basically, I compare here the focus of the software engineers. They work mostly on software selection, and the focus of what I would like to do for my thesis. I pick the software, but they're already there. I won't spend time on comparing the software, but instead I will compare the results from a linguistic standpoint. Okay, and one of the things I have done for these 6 months is I will show you now is working on the tag set design. So what I call the tag set is the set of labels that are available for the tagging that have been defined and that you are advised to use when you do tagging, when you assign post part of speech labels to the different tokens or words. Okay, so finally, these are my objectives. These were my objectives for this unit, and these are probably going to become my objective for the thesis. Develop a sizable annotated corpus of Tagalog, document the process. So this will be my chapter 2, and produce several linguistic studies. And there will be just 3 small examples of what can be done, and there will be many more from now on because the components of the system I have already most in place. I need to improve their productivity as well, but they are there already. So I will quickly go through the achievement in terms of component of the system. So it will give you a better grab on what the interface are on the different steps. So there again, the first phase is, of course, so the first artifact, I would say, is the seed corpus. So the initial corpus. So why seed? It's because the tagger is as a learning process. So it learns collocations and statistical co-occurrence of different syntactic environment of different labels from an existing corpus that has already been tagged by the linguist. Okay, so and that's my seed corpus actually is what I have been doing for 2 years, maybe in 2018 to 2019, part-time. I glossed 3,000 sentences from Schachter and Otanes grammar, which represent about 20,000 words, and manually, okay, an Excel spreadsheet. But after this, I uploaded them in programs to do further progress. Okay. Okay. So the second component is an initial tag set. So I was studying Tagalog and I was studying Schachter-Otanes grammar. So I was not restricted on creating new label, you know, and the Schachter-Otanes grammar has 500 pages, it's very detailed, very precise. So I ended up with 309 different possible labels, okay? So now it's far too much, as I will explain. So for instance, the pen tree bank that I showed is 37 labels plus 12 for a few things like punctuation. Of course, they allow compounds. So in this case of Madaling arrow with Nang being the linker, instead of separating Madali and Nang, they would keep them together, but instead they would rejoin the labels. So instead of saying adjective and then another tag for linker, they would say adjective linker. So if you count, of course, the compounds, it's probably more than 37. And then Cheng and Grabo, who have originated a first tag set for Tagalog in 2004, that has been actually been used by Go and Nokon, and they called it, they renamed it because we did some value added. So it's Michael, I think, Go and Nico Nokon. They have now about 59 tags. So I decided to not reuse it because and you will see documentation is an important point. It is not really documented. There are 3 pages lists. And sometimes I found that there was decisions that I didn't agree with. So I say, okay, I'm going to do my own. But now I have a problem is that there are too many labels. I will actually show you the 3 syntactic analysis I will show you are steered toward trying to find how I could simplify now this 309. But now what is important here is that, of course, the more labels you have, you may think that the more analytical power you have for the linguist, but on the other hand, the more difficult it is for the tagger, which is a statistic tool, to learn it. So it will be less performant. Okay, so now we have a trade-off. We need to say, okay, do we want to have 95% accuracy instead of 97, so to have a little bit word to correct, and then, of course, keep this analytical power, or do we reduce the number of labels and we have a much better performance? But of course, sometimes, and I will show you in the second part, you have to decide if it is really what you want. Then the tag set reference manual is one of my main deliverables from past 6 months, because after I finish this 309 labels, I had not documented it as I did it as I go, and of course now I want to change it, so I needed really to do documentation. But what I want to say about this is there was again an article from Pen Tree Bank. They have produced 50 pages tagging guidelines, and they insist in this article on how important it is to do, because they work with teams of linguists. Of course, I show you figures about the productivity. And if it's not documented, of course, the linguists will disagree, and it's very important to tell them what the rule is in some cases. So my achievement is only partial because I did a tag set reference manual, so it's basically an alphabetical list of available labels and explain what they mean. But of course, for the linguist who will be learning the system, it would be better to have some equivalent but organized for their direct usage, for instance, words that pose problem with the different labels that are available, or affix entries, for instance. And then the process. So I think I already commented on the central part when I show you the example of glosses. So this represents the different steps. So each step, tokenization, stemming, calculation of other attributes, and then last but not least, the post tagging. There are programs, and then at each step at the moment, you have linguist review. So I want to minimize this to maybe limit it to maybe not one, but two reviews, because every time you have to reread the sentences and correct the information that has been produced at this level. But this is the only comment I have to add to this. And now I'm going to comment on the left and right part, because it describes the overall process. So at the beginning, I have a seed corpus, okay, this Schachter and Otanes 3000 example from, and that have been, statistics have been calculated, and they allow the system to tap into it and try to produce at the end the best annotation. So if I have a new text, I take it through the system, and at the end, the linguist will sign up. We say, okay, the latest annotation is good to integrate, and then we integrate it into the corpus. We append it to Schachter and Otanes, and then I will have a second text, and then I rerun the calculation of the corpus. So the corpus will be more precise, but it will have a wider base to calculate the statistics, and particularly the case that don't occur very often. And then I continue like this, okay? And then the annotation software, okay, I will not comment much on this. Tokenization and stemming, I wrote them myself. Tokenization, it's my own invention, because there are decisions I made about splitting the words or compounding the labels. Stemming, there is a Tagalog stemmer that supposedly was developed, but I couldn't procure it. So I wrote mine. It's not very complicated. Well, of course, what is complicated is that in Tagalog, you need to have a table that has a lot of possible affixes. So developing an exhaustive table is complicated, or it takes time, at least, maybe not complicated. And then last but not least, and this one, of course, is not mundane at all. As I show you in the literature review, there were a lot of different algorithms that have been compared by the software engineers. So actually, the one that Mangili-Motan and Matsumoto have used is one of the best one. But actually, the one that Go and Okon have used is even better. But in this case, I favored the one that I could procure and install, and that was directly usable. So I have a reference here. Okay, so I'm finished talking about computer science or software, sorry. And now I'm going to try to give you 3 examples of what I could do. But again, of course, my linguistic analysis were not completely uninterested. I'm interested now in optimizing the tag set. So it's still, of course, referring to this compromise between the tag set, the system productivity or accuracy, and the work that is left to the linguist to be done. So I say my analysis is, what if I reduce the number of labels that are possible for this particular category? So principle of the experiment, that's very simple. I take note of existing tagging performance. I decide a change I want to do. So and then I mass edit change a given label to merge it into another one, okay? And instead of having 2 labels, I have only 1. So it fulfills my objective to reduce the size of a tag set. And then I retrain with a newly annotated seed corpus. I retrain a model, and I run it on a test file, and then I compare the predicted label, the labels proposed by the tagger, with the one I was expecting, okay? And then I say, okay, was it positive, this experiment, or was it not, okay? So the 3 experiments, okay, I will explain as I go. So the first one is for the nang marker to conflate the actor and object label. So first, what are actor and object labels? So they represent thematic roles, okay? So binabasa ng teacher on the arrow. Here ng teacher is the actor complement. It's the term used by Shashtan-Notanes. Okay, preposition, common noun, case marker. Okay, again, the abbreviation are here to help the people who will be tagging, but doesn't have much importance here. What counts in our case is actor. Okay, and then there are two complements here in the word binabasa, as it's object focus. So for me, object focus means it puts the object in focus, and then the object, we call it the topic in traditional Filipino literature, linguistic literature. But of course, we can debate if it's a subject, if it's a pivot, or if it's a trigger for some. But okay, I call it topic to be. And then this is a complement for Shashtan-Notanes, an actor complement. Then you have also an object complement. So in this sentence, binigyan ng teacher ng premyo ang estudyante. So the topic is the student to whom you give. So and the suffix and shows that it's a directional focus. It's what Shashtan-Notanes call a directional complement. So the directional complement is the topic, but you are left with two non-topic complements. One is the actor topic, actor complement, again, the teacher, and then the other argument is the premio, which is the object. And then you have, last but not least, very commonly used as well, a label for noun, which is usually called a genitive, which marks a complement of a noun, a complement of an adjective, sometimes a complement of a preposition. But here it's the classical case of a complement of a noun. So ang anak ng mayamang tao, so the son or the children of the rich man. So of the rich man, so it's a possessive construction, but actually it's a genitive, complement of a noun. So I thought, okay, I have three labels here. I didn't want to conflate them all in genitive, so because some linguists, they tag everything, every noun as genitive, but I think, it's a poor usage of your competence when you are a linguist, because if you tag a sentence and you spot that the thematic roles are actor and object, why not write it, okay? If you write a genitive, the people who reading you will lose the power of analysis that you brought in, okay? So I didn't want to conflate genitive. On the other end, I say actor and object, they are both complement of verb predicate. So there is less inconvenient to maneuver, because anyway, if we were to decide the type of complement that a verb may select, it's a different problem. For instance, for Tagalog, it has already been done. I have a colleague who works with this, and Riga, and she wrote an article with Klimenko, I think, about affix-based semantic, I have a reference here, but actually semantic verb classes and regularity of this marking. Okay, so it's a whole, and in English you have a huge dictionary which is called VerbNet, that for a verb gives you all the different usage, which usage where the argument is mandatory, where it's optional, and there is another problem is to make the distinction between adjunct and argument. So it's completely separate problem. So it's not going to be solved by a tagger. Okay, so that's no harm to conflate them for me. So, and I show you, I have 3 slides like this, but I'm going to explain only the first one. So here, all the different possible sublabels that I have for common noun case markers, okay? They are all PPS CCOM part 1. And then actor complement, a cozy complement, comparative, directional, genitive, locative, object, etc. So I am, what is under my target is the actor label. So we have 109 labels in my test file, and then object label, which is 420. Okay, so if I cancel, replace the actor label by object, I end up with 529 object complement labels. Now we can discuss whether we should still call it object, but object is grammatical function, is not a thematic role, so why not? And then here we have another important thing I want to explain is why this, I discussed already this 97%. So how do we calculate the accuracy that here I call recall, because it's what they do in statistics. So I run the tagger, so in the original version, and 77 is the number of matches. That means the tagger in 77 cases found the label that was expecting, but in the other case, it got it wrong, okay? So the recall is just 77 divided by 109, and it's 70% in this case, which is bad. We want to reach 97. But actually, object had already a 96.9% accuracy. Okay. And then restricted, of course, to the categories of common non-marker, you have an accuracy which is not so bad, on average 91%. When I run my experiment, okay, and then I recalculate the accuracy, and bingo, in this case, I have I go from 2,277 match to 2,307. So I won 30 additional correct labels. So it's positive. Now, and there is an adverse effect, by the way, just on the genitive. Now I had 66. So sometimes the tagger, it has to change the statistic table, and it leads him to to make additional errors for some other categories. Okay, so in this case, the performance of genitive was reduced, but globally it's positive. So discussion conclusion, 1.3% improvement is only at the level of case marker. So I have to check it on the total of the 20,000 labels. Okay, here it's only a bit more than the 10th of it is 2,500. So compared with 20,000 in the seed corpus. So the percentage is lower, of course, when you get it at the level. It simplifies the work of a linguist. Well, in this case, of course, it's quite mundane to distinguish between object and actor complement when you understand the verb, of course. But in this case, you have object for verb complements, and then you have genitive for all other kind of complement of nouns, complement of. Well, it's not so simple because I show you the three main labels, but there are other labels. Then before I decide to put it in place, I have, because another important quality of a tag set would be consistency. You don't have to have one system for the common noun markers and a different system for instance, the personal case marker, Nikai, or for demonstrative pronoun, okay, ito, nito, dito, or for the personal pronouns, okay? So, and then I have to check the overall performance. And then there are, I said, a few nouns that are neither at the moment actors or objects. So I have to make decisions on this. Here I take the example of a cozy because you will see that sa can also be mark a cozy complement. Huh? Here you have the main actor is sia. It's what Shasha and Otanes called an indirect action verb. Papunta, you have somebody do the work for you, basically. That's the indirect actor. I call it the cozy, okay? And then sia would be the causer in that case. And then he made a child. There is an indefinite meaning here because you could use sabata, which is a definitive, okay? You make a child go to the shop, or you make the child go to the shop, and then you use a different marker. So that's an additional problem because now I have a confusion between nang and sa, but I mean, I don't want to introduce a confusion between nang and sa. Okay, second example. So now the principle is the same, so I will be even faster, sorry, to keep some time for questions maybe. So ang now is mostly a topic. Actually, interestingly enough, so there is 1,200 instances of ang in the corpus that are topic. And here the recall is 100%. So in all cases where I was expecting a topic, the system proposed topic. But there are also at least two other labels. So there is predicate. So ang being marking the predicate. So maybe that's not the ideal marking, but that is what is, this is what it is. So you could say Americano ang teacher, the professor is an American. And if you want to say that it is the American out of 3 foreigners who are passing by, you use ang. And then for me, that's you mark the predicate. Here you mark the topic, and here you mark the predicate. And I say, okay, I want to, and by the way, I mark it definitizer instead of predicate. Okay, so en rosa is an example where I marked it predicate. So en rosa, you could say si rosa, but if you say en, that means that you refer to a common noun. So implicitly, that means you are not talking about Rosa, you are talking about the person whose name is Rosa. Okay, so you use un in this case. So here I was using predicate, and after a while, I probably read another passage of Shashton reference. I say, oh yes, it's a definitizer. I invented this label. And here my problem is I want to get rid of it. So and I said, oh, okay, if I can replace definitizer by predicate, I will do it. So here I could browse manually because there are only 20 examples of or 13 examples of definitizer. I checked whether they were compatible with calling them predicate. And actually, I found only one case where definitizer was not a predicate. And this is an example, ni un carpintero, hindi magagawa ang trabaho. So you could say ni carpintero, not even a carpenter, can do this job. But here you want to say that not even the carpenter, this one, can do this job. But it's not a predicate. Huh? The predicate is a verbal predicate. The topic is hang trabaho. And then it's an actor complement. Magagawa is object focus. The ang marks the topic object complement, if you want. And then this is the actor complement. Okay. So it's a complement, it's not a predicate. So replacing it by predicate is wrong. But I say, okay, there is only one, so I will find a solution for this one later. And let's try the test. And by the way, here, expected is what I tagged as a linguist originally, what I am expecting, but pred here is what the tagger has predicted. And interestingly enough, so here, definitizer itself, the tagger proposed predicate. He was wrong, so that's why I highlighted it in pink. And then definitizer probably found that it was not the predicate, but he proposed topic, and he was not able to see that there was 2 topics in the sentence. I think if I had changed the parameter of the tagger and say, look at a window which is wider, maybe he might have found it and not done the mistake. So this is, but I don't want to go into tuning of the system. So same conclusion, it's positive. And this one is, of course, lower benefit because I had only 13 instances of definitizer and only 22 of predicate. But basically, the change is positive. And this one, I'm going to implement it. Of course, I will have to find a solution for the definitizer for the actor complement. Okay. And then last but example, it's the same model as the noun discussions. I'm going to go faster again. And this time, instead of conflating 2 labels, one with another one, I conflate 3 labels into one. Okay, so I group 4 labels if you want. And the labels are sa uses a possessor in the possessor construction, sa estudiante en libro, okay, what Schachter and Otanes called the possessor construction. Actually, the tagger proposed directional, which is actually the mainstream label for sa. Second one is a locative adjunct, okay, simulatia sa mesa, so it's not a directional complement, okay. And here again, the tagger got it wrong. And again, he proposed DI. So maybe, but don't take it as an incentive for me to change it and say, okay, I get a better result. It has to have semantic and grammatical reason for doing this. Okay, so that's also what I say in the comment. Now, I have not made my decision because performance is improved. Okay, and then, of course, the mainstream one is the directional complement. Okay, papasok tayo sa kwarto ng isa-isa. We enter the classroom one by one. So we enter the classroom. In English, is transitive, but in Tagalog, it's a directional complement. Yeah. So same calculation again, and here there is, I pass on the details because I explained them. So these three labels, locative, possessor, and social. I forgot social, but ça can be used in social verb like paki. Okay, so you join a party, a family, for doing a karaoke. So Nakasama, baby. Then the Sa family is called by Schachter and Otanes a social complement. Okay. Well, only one instance actually in the whole grammar example I captured. But basically, improvement of global improvement of the case markers. So here, basically similar discussion than about the noun, but with one more detail, is that whereas noun conflating object and actor complements didn't pose really problems as long as you keep them distinct from genitive, which is all kind of complement except for verbs. In my view, of course, I know that some linguists, they mark genitive everything. For the directional, it's not so simple because shouldn't I want to keep some distinction between adjuncts and directional complements? Well, there are a few cases of locative complements, and I have a few cases maybe where that looks like a complement might be considered an adjunct, depending also, it's a continuum anyway, obligatory complement, selection, optional and adjunct. Some scholars have written that it was a continuum. You cannot really, in many cases, you cannot say, is this a complement or is it an adjunct? So maybe the decision is a bit more complicated to take from a grammar perspective. Again, I have a problem with COSI. And again, I would have to, before I decide anyway, any implementation, to check consistency. That means the same change applied to personal case markers, so to Kai, or to personal like sa hacking, or and the demonstrative pronoun like don or dito. I would have to check that the effect is the same, is positive as well. Okay, so this was it. So of course, I'm aware that objective of my analysis, syntactic analysis in this case, were steered towards the tool. So it's partly computer science again, sorry. But at least it shows you that you can do really collocation studies with the help of the tagger. I hope it okay, as a wrap up, okay, I think I apprised the state of the art, summarized the annotation process, shown how software engineers and linguists should collaborate. Yeah, and then show how linguistic studies can be conducted on the basis of an annotated corpus. And then what is next for me is, of course, to turn this proof of concept into a thesis proposal, with the objective at the moment would be, at the minimum, would be the same. I have to continue. What I have started is just a proof of concept, continue to develop a process and tools. It will be the dirty kitchen, refine and validate the text set, annotate additional text. That is the core part. And the second core part, again, is conduct grammatical research on Tagalog. Maybe so many that have been done that maybe I will still find a few that are original or bring some contribution. And then I could have to negotiate, depending on how long the committee gives me for writing the thesis. I could have possible additions, complement the post-level tagging with a constituent level annotation. So actually Pen 3 bank, they have this. Not only they mark the individual words with tags, but they try to outline the noun phrase, the verb phrase, the clause, the sentence. So it's an additional level of tagging, and it's an additional class of algorithms. So I'm not sure if I will have time to do this, depending on how fast I go with the first objective. I could populate the meaning, sense, attribute, but this has already been done. There is a team at UP Diliman, Dr. Enriquez, Dr. Cajote, that have already led several projects to produce dictionaries and show that they can produce dictionaries. And actually, the SIL people, they do this every day. They use Flex. And one of the output of Flex or Fieldworks, you know, the software, all the example they have, they enter it into Flex. And then one of the output of Flex is to produce a dictionary with a reference to examples entered in Flex. So it already exists. So I probably am not going to spend much time on this because there is no value added, not much value added. Then I would have to involve software engineer back if I am successful and say, okay, come and look at my algorithm. Isn't there a better solution? Can we implement it? And also this system, if I want other linguists to use it, probably it would be, it would have to be packaged in a user-friendly software. And then, of course, get other linguists involved to collectively build a corpus and review it together and make decisions, because I will be proposing, okay, we can have this rich tag set, but lower performance. And okay, so these are the arbitrage or the trade-off I propose, but you as linguists, a community of linguists, what do you think is best? It's not my decision. I don't have as many years to live left than you have. So. Okay, thank you. So I input here my email addresses if you want to send me questions. And if time left, sorry, no, I think I just took 1 hour again. No? No.
Okay. Range.
Yes, hello. Thank you, John. That was
hello.
very, although I could barely understand. Yeah, but I think this would be very valuable. So Hannah and I are discussing things here while you are talking about your proposed project. We see a very high potential for this one to be used by corpus linguist.
Yeah. There is a real need for a good corpus of Tagalog that's widely available. Because without a corpus, linguists who want to do something on Tagalog, they end up, having to make examples up and rely on translated sometimes or elicited examples. So, Tagalog is a language spoken by, I think, about 100 million people. It's the national, Filipino is the national language of the Philippines. And it's very sad, really, that we don't have a good annotated corpus yet. So it's an important thing. It sounds like what you're doing.
Yeah, actually it's explainable because you have 175 languages in the Philippines, so there is necessarily some dispersal of efforts and you have to have a split of roles and responsibilities between linguists. So it's very good also that many linguists work on the minority language or not always minority, but so what is left is working on Tagalog or Cebuano.
Yes. So do we have questions from the audience? I don't see.
So sorry to be too much of a software engineer. I have to continue to progress in linguistics to make it more directly understandable.
Wait, so just for clarification, you tagged the words. You didn't tag them syntactically, right? You just use grammatical. Oh my God.
Yeah. So if you read Himmelman, say the syntactic ambiguity or hypothesis, okay. So he says that for the content words, okay, noun, verbs, adjective, basically they can use the same syntactic words, syntactic slots, okay. So you with ang, after ang, you can have an adjective, you can have a verb, you can have a noun. So but his article is a bit too much because he seems to be saying that in Tagalog you cannot distinguish between a verb and a noun. So he forgets to talk about morphology. So that's why I highlighted that in the preparation of the tagging, I calculate in advance the affixes. So the tagger, of course, takes mostly the syntax. Takes the syntax into consideration in that it looks to what is on the left and what is on the right, okay? And I can parameter in, I say you look 3 on the left and 5 on the right because I think it's more significant. But it also looks at the other attributes I have calculated. So it looks at the affixes. So yeah, it's not purely syntactical, it's morpho-syntactical, so it's grammatical. Okay, for me, grammar is morpho-syntax. Okay, so in some languages like English, morphology counts almost for nothing, apart the possessive apostrophe s. And maybe if you tag the aspect or the third person, only the third person has an S, etc. It's very limited. In Tagalog, it's the opposite. So Himmelman was going a bit too long, saying that in Tagalog you cannot distinguish between, because he also writes this in support of a nominalist hypothesis, that's trying to show that everything is a noun in Tagalog. There is no verb. Okay. So I think it's a bit exaggerated because, of course, there are a few affixes that are the same between some verbs form and some noun form, that basically from the affix combination, you can easily recognize a verb from a noun. So, but what on the other hand, what the algorithm doesn't do is take the semantic into consideration. And I was giving the example of a work by Andriga. Of course, if I had already a dictionary that gives me the argument selected by each individual verb, I could write another program or algorithm to help me tag the complement and say, is this an actor complement? Is this an object complement? I could use this help. But yeah, this is semantic. Okay, so so of course it's also syntactical in that what the verb selects is, but it's syntax in support, direct support of semantic. Okay. So I'm not sure if
maybe one final question.
One final question.
Yeah.
I don't see anybody who's asking questions, but one na lang. Ayan. So does this detect nominalizations?
Yeah. So same, another example from the nominalization. So nominalization for me, if you have a verb phrase that becomes the topic, for me it's still a verb. But you have examples that are more at the margin. You take the gerund, okay? The gerund you can, because there are only two possible classes of affix for gerund. You have an non-aspectual gerund, I think, and the aspectual gerund. Only two forms. So you could say that they are nouns, okay? And this maybe is an experiment I will do. I will replace, but of course I have to get rid of sub-labels. But if I say I label nouns and verbs only, and let's see if the tagger is able to, is going to make a distinction, because Himmelman says, because there is an ang in front of a verb, okay, the relative headless construction, then it's an argument. There is a noun, then it's a noun, okay. But to me, it's I think it's more subtle than this. And again, you have a trade-off here. You say, okay, I as linguist, would I prefer in this case, which is a bit, at the edge of two different distinctions, which is a common part, a gray part. Do I prefer to say that it is a noun? Maybe you are a nominalist, or do I want to say, oh, I recognize for me, it's still a nominalized verb, so it's a verb. Nominalized, of course, because there is ang, but it's a verb. Okay.
It's a verb.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, Sir Aldrin.
So no more. Any final comment or question from our participants in here in Zoom? Meron pa ba? Last call. Last and final call.
If you have any regret, there is my email address, so you can feel free to ask me questions later.
All right. So again, this is a planned dissertation, and John is going to probably propose this one as his dissertation, but he hasn't proposed it yet. So you have time to actually send any comment or question or any concern that you might have regarding this topic. But yes, we badly need, an annotated corpus in Tagalog, grammatically annotated corpus of Tagalog that could actually help train AI that could serve a lot of different purposes, especially in our time. No? So maraming salamat, Sean. Thank you so much. We're going to award John Range a certificate again. Pwede bang ikaw yung magbasa ng certificates?
Sige, sir.
Okay.
So, John, the Linguistic Society of the Philippines awards you the Certificate of Appreciation for sharing your study entitled Grammatical Annotation of a Tagalog Corpus, a Blueprint, at the second LSP Thesis Sharing Session online, or TheSSo, on June 27, 2023, streamlined via Zoom. Given this 27th day of June 2023, signed Dr. Shirley N. Dita, Director of Professional Meetings of the Linguistic Society of the Philippines, and Dr. Aldrin Pili, President, Linguistic Society of the Philippines. Yeah.
All right, a round of applause for virtual applause for John. Maraming salamat, John. And
Okay.
good luck, no? Good luck sa mga susunod mong gagawin for your PhD dissertation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Maraming salamat po, and thank you for the audience for their patience, and thank you for having me today.
Thank you, John.
Maraming
Thank you
salamat.
for your time.
So, Rins, kung nandyan po ba si Hannah, magpapasalamat din tayo ulit kay Hannah
Andito po si Hannah.
for sharing her work with us.
Mag-picture
And-
tayo, sir.
Okay, how do we do that? Let me stop sharing. And then let's gallery. How about gallery? I'll
Ayan.
remove the spotlights. Okay, so ikaw na, Rich, yung
Sige,
kukuha.
sir. Sige, sir. Okay, first, ano tawag nila dito? First window. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, next. 1, 2, 3, smile. Nag-iiba-iba.
Oo nga eh.
Where
May
is,
mga
where is the
nagbubukas
second
ng
page?
camera nila bigla.
Nag-move. Okay, sige, ulitin natin. 1, 2, 3. Kailang, lumabas ulit. 1, 2, 3. Okay, another one dun sa next. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Abangan nyo na lang
Maraming salamat.
sa
Facebook page.
Facebook page ang ating mga
Sa Facebook.
photos.
Yes. And also, kung gusto niyong makakuha ng certificate of participation for today's TheSSo, kindly fill out the evaluation form. Yung link ay nasa chat. Fill it out at gagawa namin ng certificate yung mga mag-respond doon sa evaluation. Maraming salamat. I see familiar faces mula sa malalayong lugar. Maraming salamat for joining us. Kila Ma'am Dr. Taholosa sa Palawan State University. Sino pa ba? I see Manny also from SIL. Nandiyan po ba si Manny kanina?
Si
And yung
Jill.
mga kasama natin sa board. Yung mga
Yes,
kasama
thank
natin
you.
sa board na wala pa rin sa meeting, kasama natin. Si Dr. Suarez nandito pa rin yata. Si Doc Chini nandito pa. And yung dati natin kasama sa board, si Dr. Pulido, Dennis. Maraming salamat for joining us today. Okay, so abangan nyo yung susunod na offering ng LSP Virtual Talk Series. Please like and follow yung Facebook page natin para ma-update kayo sa susunod na Virtual Talk Series ng LSP. Maraming salamat. Have a safe afternoon and see you again soon, virtually.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Salamat, John and Hannah. Thank you.